Hi everyone, this is Nathan from Snap. Today we're going to be looking at the Snap Offline Interviewer app and how a spreadsheet of participants can be uploaded to allow for targeted interviewing. We're going to be using SnapXMP, our new seamlessly integrated platform, which has got three main components to it. Snap Desktop, which is installed on your PC or laptop, Snap Online, our cloud-based application, and for those of you who might be doing any field-based interviewing, so face-to-face interviewing, we have the Snap Offline Interviewer app. Today, I'm going to be making use of all three components. The Participants feature in the Snap Offline Interviewer app, or SOI for short, is an extension of the same functionality that we have for any web-based survey. For a standard web survey, a database of participants can be uploaded, and these participants can be invited to participate with targeted email invites and reminders, or by going to the generic survey link and logging into the survey. In SOI, your database of participants is uploaded, and these are distributed to the different interviewers out in the field, with different interviewers potentially having a different set of participants to interview. Equally, they can all share the same list. There is lots of great functionality available for surveys conducted within the SOI app, and I'd certainly advise having a watch of the extended Snap Offline Interviewer video on our support hub to ensure that you're making full use of its rich feature set. Today though, I'm going to focus solely on the Participants feature. The steps involve creating that spreadsheet of known participants. These participants can have a specific interviewer assigned to them, or they can be assigned to all of your interviewers. And to confirm that when I'm talking about interviewers, these are the people out in the field asking the face-to-face questions. The survey is then shared with your interviewers out in the field. Those interviewers would have downloaded the free Snap Offline Interviewer app and set themselves up a free interviewer account, or added the interviewer permission to an existing SnapXMP account. And it's worth pointing out that the Snap Offline Interviewer app can be used on a PC or laptop, and I'm going to be using the Windows app today to demonstrate the actual interviewing. When an interview is conducted, the interviewer types in the participant's unique ID, which then pulls through any relevant information that might be required for that specific interview. For example, it might pull through their email address so it can be checked to see if it's still correct, or perhaps it might pull through the number of people that normally occupy that office or residence. Here you can see it's pulling through the data of a previous phone call, and it's also highlighting some things that were picked up during that call. Okay, let's head into the software, and I'm going to go into Snap Desktop to begin with. I'll head straight into my participant survey. My example survey today is taking the scenario that a set of interviewers are required to visit offices or businesses to make an inspection. So I've got a number of different inspectors who've each got their own list of properties to visit. You can see I have my client ID question, and this is the unique participant ID which links back to my spreadsheet and pulls through any relevant data. And this has been displayed today by going into questionnaire properties and coming down to power data, and I have participant and I've displayed that in the questionnaire. At the top of my survey I have some hidden questions. These are going to be seeded from my spreadsheet and then used below to personalise my interview. So in my example today, I'm confirming the name of the business, when the initial phone check happened, and also confirming which items were picked up during that initial phone check. And then I have a couple of questions towards the bottom, and then based upon these answers, the final question, which is about whether a final follow-up call is required, will be pre-answered based on the initial answers chosen. So the survey will guide the interviewer and suggest an answer based on my previous responses. Let's have a look at the spreadsheet which will be uploaded. First of all, I've got my client ID number, which is the unique login for each interview. Then I have the interviewer who each participant is being assigned to, and then I've got some information about each of those participants. To make things easier when we start mapping across the spreadsheet, I've named the questions to be the same as the column headers in my survey. And to do that, if I just go back into my survey and go up to my hidden questions at the top, I've just right-clicked on a question, gone into the variable properties, and then manually typed in the name to match my column headers. Okay, I'll just re-hide those questions. And then if we save that and synchronize the survey, and then we can head into Snap Online to add the finishing touches. So if I move into my participant survey and go into the Collect tab, and I'll publish the current version. The first thing we will do is go into Change Options, and we will activate this survey for mobile interviewing, and today we will also include the fact that we want to make use of participants. So if I save that one, we then need to share the survey with my different interviewers. So if I go back to Summary and Shares, and if I add my different users in, so today I'm going to be using training@snapsurveys.com. So I'm setting this person up as an interviewer, and I'm also going to add a second user. Again, setting them up to be an interviewer. It is important that this is done before I upload my spreadsheet. If not, the spreadsheet will be rejected. It doesn't matter, however, whether these interviewers have an account set up yet. They can be set up at a later date. As mentioned though, it is just a case of downloading the free app from Google Play or the Apple App Store. They can then create themselves a free interviewer account or add the interviewer permission to an existing SnapXMP account via the links on our website, which I'll be pointing you to at the end of this video. So we have the spreadsheet and survey all set up, and the survey's been shared with my interviewers. The final part is to add my spreadsheet on participants. So if I go into Summary and then Collect, we can then go down to Participants and Participant List. And if I browse off to my spreadsheet, which is on my desktop today, and click Next. If I just head back into my spreadsheet a moment, today I'm going to be making use of just one worksheet, the Company Info worksheet, which has got all my interviewers on here today. You could instead have separate worksheets for your different sets of interviewers. And this idea of having separate worksheets might be useful if you were perhaps uploading new participants on a weekly basis. But as said, today I'm just going to make use of worksheet number 1. Whilst we're looking at the spreadsheet, you can see that I've got my 2 sets of interviewers. So I've got one interviewer assigned to 4 people and a different interviewer assigned to another 4 people. But I also have one participant that isn't assigned to anyone. This means that actually it will be assigned to everyone who has shared access to this survey. So today it will be assigned to both the Hotmail address and also the snapsurveys.com address. Once uploaded, I can then manually assign it once I know who they belong to, or if there were lots to be reassigned, I could reload an updated spreadsheet that has that additional information. Okay, let's head back into Snap Online. So we've uploaded the spreadsheet. We now need to work our way through the wizard and confirm what's happening. So we will be tracking our respondents, and we will be using that unique ID to sign in. Snap will work out which person each interviewer is assigned to by making use of the interviewer. So again, just to confirm what I'm doing here, I'm just looking at the different column headers in my spreadsheet. So I will be making use of interviewer, and we're going to seed some data from that spreadsheet into the survey. So here we're actually seeding the actual questionnaire. So in my spreadsheet today, I have a company name column, and that's being matched up with the company name question. And this is where I mentioned that earlier I'd manually renamed these questions to match the column headers. So if I add that one, and I'm also going to take the phone check date and match that one. So these are open-ended questions. And then we also have some column headers called reason, and these are being matched up with one question in Snap. So this is a multiple response question. So I'll manually match up each column. Obviously you might have information on your spreadsheet which you don't wish to match across. That's fine, you don't have to make use of every column. And because these were multi-choice questions, I now need to map the different options across. So you can see, because I'm using the same wording, Snap's actually done it automatically, but it's always worth double checking. So social distancing, social distancing. This one hasn't matched across automatically, so in the spreadsheet it's pH guidance, whilst in Snap it's public health guidance. Okay, so everything's been matched across either automatically or I've manually mapped it across. And then if we press next and then upload. If I press finish, and then I can go ahead and make the survey live. So if I go back to collect and start interviewing. As mentioned, I'm going to be using the Windows version of the app today, but the look and functionality is very similar across all three versions of the app. Now, when you log in for the very first time, it will point you to the cog icon at the top, where you just need to confirm whether you're going to be pointing to the UK server or the US server, or if you have got Snap installed on your own servers, you will need to point it off to your own address here. Once that's set, we can then log in as one of my interviewers. So today I'm going to go with training@snapsurveys.com. So if I click login, you can see straight away it's synchronized in the background with my work. We can manually synchronize whenever you like, or it will synchronize automatically every 10 minutes or every 10 completed questionnaires. The frequency of that can be changed though by going into settings. So we've got the settings here for how often it will auto-synchronize, plus user-specific settings in here as well. But today we'll go back and I'll go back into my participants survey and I will log in as one of my participants. So I'm going to go with 14 West Street, so that's my unique ID for that particular customer, and if I press next, you can see it's pulling through the information from my spreadsheet. So it's Radio 7, that's the correct company name, so I'll press yes. And it's also pulled in the fact that the original phone call happened on the 16th of August, and these were the issues that were picked up during that initial phone call. I'll go ahead and progress through the survey. As mentioned, I've set the survey up to guide the interviewer, with my answers to these next two questions being used to determine what happens next. So if I go ahead and choose one of these trigger answers and press next, you'll see that the survey has automatically pre-chosen the fact that this client does require a follow-up visit. Whereas if I go back and remove one of the trigger answers and press next, you can see that the survey is now suggesting the client does not require a follow-up visit. I have set it up to allow the interviewer to override this though with their own suggestion. That was making use of a new feature called Initial Value, which is used to seed questions without the need of a spreadsheet. As mentioned, there is an extended SOI video which looks in more detail at a lot of the functionality that can be utilised for offline interviewing, so I'm not going to go into the details of how that's set up today. Okay, I'll just click Submit to complete this audit. And if I come out of this survey and synchronize, you can see it's sending the results and also checking for any updated surveys. If I now move back into Snap Online and go back into my participants, you can see that 14 West Street is now complete. So if I was to try and complete it again, I'd then get a message saying that that participant has already been completed. Likewise, if I was to enter the details of someone I shouldn't have access to, so I'm going to enter 32 East Street. You'll see that this person isn't recognised. If I move back into my spreadsheet, you'll remember that there was one participant who wasn't actually assigned to a specific interviewer, so actually that participant was assigned to both of those interviewers. So I'll sign in as 19 North Street. So you can see it's coming up as the interviewless company. And for this one, I'm actually going to save it halfway through. It will default to the name of the survey and the time that you saved it, but I'm going to replace that with 19 North Street and then click OK. I can then continue doing some more interviewing, or submit the partial complete, or delete the partial, or continue where I left off. In terms of adding additional participants, I could either add some new ones on the end of my original worksheet, or we could perhaps make use of the additional worksheets down the bottom. Either way, it's just a case of going back into Snap Online, into your participants list, and upload participants. If you're simply adding more, then it's just add. If you had some modifications to make to the original spreadsheet, then it's update. So that could be perhaps that you're reassigning some of the interviewers, or perhaps updating some of the seeded data. Plus you can do a full replace of the original list, and you have the option of deleting certain participants. On the subject of edits, if you are making just individual changes, then you may find that easier to do, or quicker to do that, just by going into one of the individuals, and you have the option to edit some of the seeded data. Or if I go back into interviewers, we've also got the option to start manually assigning some of these people. So my 19 North Street, which wasn't initially assigned to anyone, I could go in there and manually assign that to one of my different users. Okay, so that was everything that I had planned to show you today. A quick 30-second recap of things to remember. So it was just a normal survey that was activated for SOI through the change option button in Snap Online. The survey itself had the participant power data option displayed, so that was the unique reference ID number. And finally, you need to share the survey with your interviewers before you upload the spreadsheet. We've obviously been looking at the Snap Offline Interviewer app today. There is an extended video on the Support Hub which goes into more information on all the functionality available for surveys and forms run on the app. Plus there's a how-to tutorial which takes you through the steps that I've shown you today. As mentioned, your interviewers will need to download the free Snap Offline Interviewer app and also create themselves a free interview account, or add that permission onto an existing Snap XMP account. The links on screen now will point you in the right direction for both of those. And of course, do remember that we are always on the end of the phone or email, whether that's accessing our help desk or perhaps booking onto one of our training courses. Or if you're short of resources or would just like a helping hand, our research department can assist you with any aspect of your project, from simple data entry jobs right through to complete project management. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll hopefully see you again soon.